What up? It's Guido. I made a guide on the forum on Tectonic Slam plus Earthshatter Chieftain, and I want to talk about the gameplay of this guide because I've started to get some questions, and this is going to be much easier to clear it up for everyone. So first of all, to understand the build, you have to first understand what's at the core of the build. What's the main idea? How is it different from other builds? And the very core idea and the very core of this build is Fist of War. This is what I base all of the guide on, and more specifically on the line of attacks with supported skills are ancestrally boosted no more than once every 1.8 seconds. So no more than once every 1.8 seconds. So what this means is that I am not going to attack faster than every 1.8 seconds at all in this guide. Never. I don't want to do that. That's it. My attack speed is flat 1.8 seconds, and that's it. Done. Any attack speed, I'm attacking faster now. The only reason I'm doing this is for safety, and I'm gonna explain this later. So just keep in mind the attack speed is 1.8 seconds. Done. We're done with that. So now what does this change if I can attack 1.8 seconds? So first of all, how does it change the clear speed? Right? If I can attack only every 2 seconds, let's say around 2 seconds, how do I increase my clear speed on the maps? So, and the answer is area of effect. So I'm basically trying to scale area of effect. So actually let's demonstrate this a little bit better. What do I have here? This earthquake. I'll put in earthquake. Let's charge up and see. So this is basically, and this is earthquake AoE. With Tectonic Slam, I get even more AoE. The AoE is crazy. It's because the idea is that I want to make big, huge slams. That's the first thing. That's my clear speed. Area of effect is my clear speed. And the other idea is that if I'm gonna hit something every 1.8 seconds, I better make sure that I kill it instantly with one shot. So I just slam it, huge area, one shot everything, and I move on. And that's it. That's the main idea on clearing maps, right? So in order to make sure that I get most of it, I also use, for example, increased area of effect support. I lose on damage, but I get more area of effect. So this is the first scenario, clearing maps. And following the same scenario in bossing, right? I decided to use Earthshatter for that. And in the game, there's a shortcut. You can press X on the keyboard, right? And it's gonna switch your weapon, instantly switch your weapon. So it's very, very easy to set up two different setups on your gems. Of course, you need to have 2 6-linked items instead of 1. That's a downside. But the upside is that I can now use 2 different weapons. One I can use it for mapping, the other I can use for bossing. And the idea of bossing is that I use the Fist of War, again, the same idea. And on top of that, I am using 3 different Warcries for bossing. Because Warcry, the best part about the Warcries, actually, in my opinion, is the exerted attacks. What I mean is that if I Warcry, I have 5 attacks that will deal 30% increased area, 30% increased more damage, and 30% increased area of effect, basically. Right? I have 5 attacks. And this works perfectly with synergy with the Fist of War. Because if I had a lot of attack speed, I will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and done. My exerted attacks are done, and I'll lose the bonus, right? So instead, if I use slowly, right? For example, let's do an Infernal Cry. Infernal Cry. I can do 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots, and I still have 2 shots ready, and the cooldown is back, so I can use it again. So I can have a permanently on, like this. I can have Infernal Cry permanently on, always. I can have always Infernal Cry on, always exerted attacks. Now, if I can have Infernal Cry, in the same way, I can have also all the other both Warcries on. But this is how it gets a little bit more tricky, and you have to get used to clicking the buttons. It was kind of confusing at the start, but now it's just a reflex, and I can do it anyway, do it all the time. So basically, the idea is that now I have all of my Warcries on, and the Intimidating Cry only has 3 uses basically. So I can use 3 attacks, and the cooldown is 5 seconds. So the maximum I can do is 3 attacks every 5 seconds. How I do is that I slam, then I use 1 Warcry, then I slam, I use the other Warcry, I slam again, I use the first Warcry, and now that I slam, right, this one has lost all of its exerted charges, but I can renew it again. And the cycle keeps on going. The cycle is always on, always on. I was like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and I have always all the 3 exerted attacks on. And what's cool about this is that I have nothing to do anyway. I have time for this. I have time to Warcry after attacks, because if I can attack only once every 1.8 seconds, I have nothing to do anyway, right? So here you can see the red. For example, you can see the red border here. If I slam, it shows that this is the Fist of War cooldown, basically. So if I slam, now I have time, right? So instead of waiting, doing nothing, I can Warcry, and boom, I am ready. So it works in perfect synergy that I have nothing to do anyway. Like, I have time, so I might as well just Warcry. So it means that I can have, I can get all the Warcries up without sacrificing anything. Sure, I could attack one more time, but it's not as efficient to just Warcry and wait for the Fist of War. So when bossing, I'm using Earthshatter, and as well. And this works again in perfect synergy with Earthshatter, because what does Earthshatter do? Right? If you slam, it creates spikes, and you can explode those spikes with Warcrying. So I can explode the spikes, and I can get exerted attacks, and that works perfectly with Fist of War. So everything kind of lines up with this build. So my idea is that this is a boss. I walk up, I try to be as close as possible, so that when I Warcry, all the spikes hit, and he takes damage from all the spikes and gets wrecked. So this is the idea for bossing. And the cool part about bossing is that the cool part about actually having 2 weapons is that when I'm bossing, I don't need the area of effect, because usually I have 1 target, and that's it, just 1 target. So on the other weapon, I can have other gems that just boost damage. For example, I can have concentrated effect, right? I couldn't have on the other weapon because I want to have more area of effect, more clear speed. With Earthshatter, I can afford to use concentrated effect to get more damage, because this is one of the highest damage gems ever, but it sacrifices the area of effect. With Earthshatter, I can switch to Earthshatter when bossing, and it doesn't matter. I can have the damage, and the area of effect doesn't matter anymore. Right? So this is the core principle of the guide. Fist of War, attack only once every 2 seconds. When I'm bossing, I use the 3 Warcries system, where I have only all the time all 3 Warcries on, and on top of that, I get to explode the spikes. Now, if you have enough damage to one-shot everything in maps, you don't have to use all the 3 Warcries. I don't use it anymore. I have enough damage to one-shot everything with 1 Warcry. When mapping, I only use Seismic Cry. But there are some Legion counter or something. I might just, if I need more damage, I can still scale the damage up with using all my Warcries. But most of the time, I don't need it. So when I'm mapping, I use only Seismic Cry. And the reason is because this Warcry increases area of effect. And it gives insane damage. It's kind of, I don't know, I think this is kind of broken skill, honestly, because not only it gives just 30% more damage and 30% increased area of effect, but it also increases area of effect per each attack and increases 30% more damage for every previous attack, right? So if I have 5 attacks, the 5th attack will have 150 more damage and 150 more area of effect. So I want to use this when mapping. And also, if you want to one-shot bosses, burst them down really quickly, you also want to get the charges down to 1 or 2, right? So when the boss charges up, you have the 2 best hits. Next, let's talk about Infernal Cry, because some people get confused about this gem, and so want to clear it up. So what this gem for this skill does, it does the Warcry, and it exerts an attack. Of course, it does other things, but it kind of exerts an attack. And how it does the exerted attack is that it triggers another skill, which is Combust. You can see the Combust at the bottom. So it deals damage in an area. So it's like an area damage. So what that means is it's basically another attack. So when I hit a target, the Infernal Cry will activate Combust and it will do another attack. What this also means is that I can use this another attack to give more damage when I was starting off, when you're not at the when you don't have all the items, you can 6-link this Infernal Cry with melee physical damage, Combust, and other attack gems to boost the damage, and you basically get another hit. So you can use this gem to have 2 attacks: your original attack, and then Combust triggers, and then there's another attack. Or later in the guide, I realized that it also can be used for like a utility. For example, I have used Awaken Curse on hit support to add curse flammability on the opponents, on the targets that I hit. And also use combustion support so that there's a 49% chance to ignite enemies. So with this, I can ignite enemies and I can curse them with another curse, right? I have elemental weakness here, and then with Awaken Curse and hit support, I can get another one, because you can supported skills apply curse and hit. You can where's this? Supported skills can apply an additional curse. So what this does? What it does, I can have another curse using this Infernal Cry. And of course, on top of the fact that I cover enemies in Ash, which is also very nice. So 2 reasons to Warcry for this Infernal Cry. Next, let's cover endurance charges, because this is another core mechanic of the game that I'm focusing on this build. So the first reason why I'm focusing on endurance charges is because Tectonic Slam, let's have it here very simply, Tectonic Slam has a thing where 5% more, where it gains 5% more area of effect per endurance charge. So that means the more endurance charges that I have, the more area of effect I have. And if we go back to the core of this build, then more area of effect means faster clear speed. It also has the 5% fissure branching chance, which also increases the AoE. So this is the first reason I'm using the endurance charges. The second synergy with endurance charges is the tide breaker. First of all, you can see that it increases physical damage, 10% increase physical damage per endurance charge. So I can have more damage, increased damage on this weapon per every single endurance charge. And then there is this support gem, endurance charge on melee stun. And if I go to wiki, then endurance charge on melee stun support. And the interesting thing about this gem is that it gives 5% more damage per endurance charge. So these are the, talking about damage area effect, these are the synergies with endurance charge. And on top of that, these rings, Calm's way, they give +1 maximum endurance charge, which is what I wanted for the damage. And then it also gives 0.4% of life per second regeneration per second, right? So with these rings, I can get more endurance charges, and I can also get insane amounts of life regen per second. If I'm used 2 of them, that's double. And if I also check my skill tree, then I'm using Valako, and this also gives the nice to have 1+1 maximum endurance charge, and on top of that it gives 0.5% life regen per endurance charge. The other places where I get endurance charges are here on the tree, here on the tree, then there's here on the tree one, and then I get also one on the boots, maximum 1 endurance charge. So when I combine all the endurance charges, I have total of 10 endurance charges. So this gem, endurance charge and melee stun, gives 40% more damage. On this one I get 100% increased physical damage. With this ring I get 4% life regen, 4% life regen. With this gem I had 5% life regen. And if I check the guide, I think I had some other stuff. Okay, and per endurance charge I also get 4% elemental resistances, so 40% elemental resistances. I get 4% additional physical damage reduction, so 40% damage reduction. And I think that's it. There might be something else, but this is basically why endurance charges are also synergized in this build and work very nicely. When you are going to get later in the build, there are recommendations to get cluster jewels, and I want to mention a couple of reasons why cluster jewels are good to replace with just regular nodes. First reason why it's very good is because you can get leeches on the cluster jewels. So you can get mana leech, which I have here, and then you can get life leech as well. So basically life leech gives me 1000 life regen, which is too good to not have, and mana leech is what solves all of my mana issues. So you need both of those, and with having both leeches you can have free anoint on the amulet, and you can get something like tenacity, which is a very, very good passive. Second, cooked alive are the best damage passives for this build. The only downside to this is that you need to ignite enemies. That's something to keep in mind. You need to So what it does, it gives ignite and enemies minus 10% fire resistance. But yeah, like I said, you have to ignite them, and I make sure to ignite them in 2 ways. Of course, this one gives a basic 15% ignite chance, and also have, I'm in point and building right now, and I also have 3 of those, so that's 45% ignite chance. But on top of that, I was talking before about Infernal Cry, which has combust, and this combust lets me use combustion support, which gives 49% more chance to ignite. The reason I want to use it, the combust on the Infernal Cry, is because the combust gem doesn't give the best damage for Earthshatter, so I replaced it with, so moved the gem to the Infernal Cry, and I ignite enemies with Infernal Cry, and then I get a huge damage boost with Cooked Alive, and that's where a huge chunk of my damage comes from. For example, if I check the tree, one of these Cooked Alive passives gives 7.5% damage. If I remove, for example, 2 of them, then it gives even more total combined damage of 17%. And I am the Cyrus Zone. I think it gives less for regular mobs, but I don't care about regular mobs. I can one-shot them anyway, so the main focus on the skill tree is to get leeches, and then Cooked Alive, we get ignite chance, so we ignite enemies, they get minus resistances, and we can kill them. And the last good thing about cluster jewels is that I can, with using maces, I can get Overlord, which gives me Fortify, and then I don't need to have Fortify on my links on my weapon, right? I don't need to have them anywhere here, which means I can use gems that give even more damage. So I can replace the Fortify, because Fortify is just too good to not have. It's just too good not to have. Well, you can just YOLO play and get more damage instead of survivability, but survivability is just too good to not have. So I can move the fortification effect here and then get more damage instead. And the last good thing about the cluster jewels is that I can have more flexibility with the regular jewels. So with using the cluster jewels, I get 4 jewels, and I can have stats there, I can get resistances, I can get a lot of life there, and if I have some free space, I can get damage there as well. So these are really, really valuable. So the first very, very important thing, this crucial, remember this is one thing you should always take out of this guide. When you enter a map, first thing you do is you Warcry. You remember to Warcry into your map. The reason is because in the skill tree, that is the thing that starts our endurance charges generation, and we talk about how important are those. So here we have gain 1 endurance charge every second if you Warcry recently, right? So I have 1 endurance charge right now. If I Warcry, it starts to go up, tick, 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 and my damage goes up, my survivability goes up, and then when I hit some enemies, this endurance charge and melee stun gem will keep up the endurance charges so that they don't run out, right? So, and you have to also check all the time if you're doing labyrinths or maybe Cyrus fights, Uber Elders, delving. These are times where you will not attack for a while, so it's important to keep in mind that when you have the charges that are going low, Warcry to get them up, right? So it goes 9, 7 seconds. I'm like, oh, it's starting to lose the charge. I'm gonna lose charges soon. Warcry to keep them up. But when mapping, you're gonna hit the enemies, stun them, and you get endurance charges anyway. I think I covered everything on the gameplay on this guide. If you have any more questions, write them in the guide, or you can have visit me on my Twitch channel and ask questions there, or just in YouTube as well. I'm Guido. Thank you for watching. I hope you're gonna enjoy this build. I'm having a lot of fun playing it, and if you like this content, subscribe. And hope to see you some other time. Thank you. Bye.